Hello everyone, welcome to Even College Digital Class. So this is our second video on Python. In our last class, we have discussed the features and the application areas of Python, and let's have a look into what we are going to do today. Okay. First of all, we'll know what is the basic system requirement for Python. Next, we will download and install Python in our Windows 10. Next, we will launch our code editor, and at last we will check whether the installation process is successful or not by writing some code. Okay, so let's start. So what are the basic system requirements for Python? Actually, before downloading any software, we must know what are the basic system requirements for that particular software to make sure that the particular software is compatible with our system. So the system requirement mean what are the hardware component and what are the other software resources are required. As you see, most of software have two types of requirements. One is your minimum requirement and other is recommended requirement. So with the minimum requirement, the software can install and can run successfully. But with the recommended requirement, we can achieve more performance. So whenever we want to achieve more performance, we can go for with the recommended requirements. So next, come to the basic requirements for Python. First one is processor. Whatever processor you may have Intel Atom processor, you may have Intel Core i3 processor, Core i5 processor, Core i7 processor. But the minimum requirement is you must have the Intel Core i3 processor with 32-bit. Okay. If you have i7 processor of 64-bit, then it will good. Next is disk space. That means how much minimum memory space required in our RAM to run the Python scripts. So actually you will just need 25.5 MB of RAM to download the Python, but to install and to run Python scripts you must have minimum 1 GB of disk space, and the recommended disk space is 2 to 3 GB. Next is operating system. As we have discussed earlier that Python is a portable language. That means it can run on any major platforms like your Windows, like your Mac operating system, like Linux, Unix. So whatever operating system you may have, you just download the Python interpreter version according to your operating system. And in this class, we are going to download Python interpreter for Windows 10. The latest Python interpreter version is Python 3.8.3. The next is Python version. When we will go to official website, you will able to see there are variety of Python interpreter versions. So you may download Python 2 or Python 3, but the recommended is you must have a latest Python interpreter version. So next is text editor. So if we have a Python interpreter, then why we need text editor and integrated development environment? Okay. So when we download Python, the Python installer contains IDE by default. IDE means what? Integrated development and learning environment. The IDE acts as a command prompt. That means IDE can execute a single statement as like our command prompt you see in your DOS, and as like a Unix shell or Python shell. So when we will work on a larger project, or we will work on a software development, or we will work on web development, that time our project may contain 100 to 200 programs, and each program must have some like 500-600 line of codes. So that time we will not prefer to use a command prompt to write the whole 500 to 600 line of code in our command prompt. So that's why we need a platform where we can write all the codes at a time, then we will debug it and run it. That's why we need some text editor and IDE. Python supports text editors like Notepad, Notepad++, Sublime, Atom, and other text editors are also there. So these text editors are also available in internet for free. You can download them from internet. Then come to IDE. IDE means what? Integrated Development Environment. There are lots of IDE supported by Python for like Python, Thorny, Visual Studio Code, PyCharm. PyCharm is the most popular IDE for Python. So these are the basic requirements for Python. Let's download the Python and install it in our system. So let's get started with the practical steps now. Let's install Python. So what will I do? I will go for Google Chrome. Here just search Python download, and the first website, that is www.python.org, that this is our official website. So now get it into it. Yes, here you can see download all releases. By clicking on all releases, you can see the variety of Python interpreter versions, and you can download the Python interpreter according to your operating system, like for Windows, Mac, or other platforms. So here this is the download for Windows, and the latest Python version is Python 3.8.3. so let's download it. Yes, see, it will only take 25.5 MB to download the Python interpreter. Your latest version is 3.8.3. So let's wait for some time while it's getting downloaded. So our Python interpreter has been downloaded. Let's open it. So here we have the Python interpreter 3.8.3 of 32-bit. That's why we need a minimum 32-bit processor, and the recommended processor is 64-bit. So let's install it. Just check it. Add Python 3.8 to path. That means it will set its path automatically, and install now. So here we go. Our setup was successful. Let's close it. So let us check whether our computer is having any Python ideally or not. So search Python. Yes, there is a Python ideally of 32-bit, and the version is 3.8.3. So I said that Python ideally looks like a command prompt and acts like a command prompt. So let's check it. Yes, this is our Python ideally, and it actually looks like a command prompt. So let me zoom this. Okay, so let's check whether the Python ideally is working or not. Actually, we are not familiar with any Python program. We can't write any Python program now, but we can check it by giving some arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and all. Because arithmetic operations are valid statements for Python, and the Python interpreter can interpret those codes. So let's try. Suppose I want to add 15 with 12. So what will it show me? It will show 27. Let's check. Yes, 27. That means it is working. Suppose I want to multiply 6 with 8. So it is 48. That means it's working. So if you remember, in our previous class, I gave an example while differentiating the programming language with the scripting language. So now that time I gave an example, a print hello statement in our output screen. So in case of programming language, there was 5 line of codes starting from include statement to the ending curly braces. But in case of scripting language, there was only one line, that is print hello. So let's check that print hello statement is working or not here. So print, within the parenthesis there must be double quote and the hello. Okay. So I said that there is no semicolon, there is no curly braces required. So let's check it. Yes, this prints hello. That means it is working. So in our next class, we will go for the literals, the constant, the variables, and all. Okay, thank you.